All right, hello everyone. I'm here with a very special guest today, and I'm here today with Nancy Schwartz. And Nancy is a transformational health and retirement strategist. She's the founder and principal of Envision Healthy Retirement, and she spent most of her corporate career in leadership roles. She's founded successful retained search companies, Search Execution, and was previously a client partner at Korn Ferry. In many roles, Nancy's worked with a variety of industries and markets, ranging from global multinationals to early stage private equity and venture capitalists. She's a classically trained ballerina, and she's worked for nationally known ballet and modern companies. Nancy embraced nuanced movement, discipline, artistry, and the importance of balance. She's built several professional dance companies and also a nonprofit dance studio, which fosters the inclusion of all the arts into dance choreography. And she's passionate about continuing to study both modern dance and ballet, and also enjoys performing new works. Nancy is an advocate for personal growth and enrichment and has graduated from Tiny Habits, Retirement Options, HeartMath, the Health Coach Institute, just to name a few, and is a health and lifestyle consultant and has graduated from Skidmore College. She's a member of selected mentorships in both health and business, and I'm super excited for our conversation today. Welcome, Nancy. How's it going?
Awesome. I'm so thrilled to be here and have time with you this morning and to have some fun for sure.
Awesome. Well, I would love to dive right in with a very interesting background of corporate America, ballet, and how did going from being a ballerina, and you still dance, right? How did it go from being a ballerina lead you to a focus now of focusing on healthy retirement for yourself and others?
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit. So I have a passion for movement, clearly, and I love innovation. And through that, I was very, very lucky. Back in the dark ages, there was actually jobs for artists, so that was a very cool thing. So I spent many decades dancing across the US and actually Canada as well. And so that was fun, working with new choreographers, new companies. But at the end of the day, my dad said, for God's sakes, would you just get a real job? And I'm like, huh, what? So off I went. And what I found over the decades working was that although it seems so disparate in terms of, the art world and corporate America, the ruthless world, there are so many similar crossovers in terms of strengths. So to me, I always I was always the outsider in corporate because I would always come at solutions from a very different way, from a creative way, from a different perspective. And so I was always known, as the partner who would fix things. I never got anything till it blew up or there was a crisis or whatever, but I had that ability, and it comes from dancing, is to just jump into the deep end, figure it out, because mostly I had no clue what was right or left when these things were on fire, and then set everything and point it into the right direction where it would give value to our global clients, certainly, and to what we were doing in terms of retained executive search, which is very high pressure, and you're dealing with public companies or private companies, highly confidential work. So you're on the zip, let's just get this done type situation. So, a lot of discipline, a good sense of humor definitely helps on both sides. And I think learning in the moment and thinking about, I never really thought of this in corporate in terms of personal growth, but now that I've jumped into the land of, if you will, healthy retirement, that is a pillar for me in terms of founding my company of personal growth. So I had this ability to just know nothing in corporate, and same in dancing. Like, you don't know the choreography till the choreographer sets something unless you're learning a classic. And I loved classics, but that wasn't the type of role that was really interesting to me. And so now we are so lucky in living in this time. And I want to share with your audience, and I know, Natalie, you embrace this too, which is so exciting, that I believe that we are living on a fabulous time right now, embracing science and technology. And in my business, thinking about it as it relates to longevity, and then adding that risk component into this, which is your change. Change is moving at the nth to the millionth degree, right? So every moment there's something changing. So it's readjusting. And we have the ability now, and this is what's so exciting for me, building this company, is that science is changing, and it's changing through technology. And it is now available for the consumer, right? It's not holed away in a pharmaceutical company or a device or diagnostic company. It is not secretly held tight. Natalie, you're at another university. I can't share this with you because this is going to be my baby that's going to burst out. You know, they spin out these companies in universities, right? But hey, Natalie, I'm at another university. I'm going to be calling you. Hey, you have that expertise. I need to talk to you. So now people are talking and they're sharing it, be it on social media, be it in conferences. So there's so much that we can do about our health now. So that's why I'm passionate. You and I are part of a mentorship with Sachin Patel, and I'm very, very grateful that he even took me into this, because I was a risk factor. I'm nothing like all you amazing functional medicine people, but I have this passion for health and saying, okay, people, you know, as executives, we are metabolically unfit after 40 years, right? Metabolically unfit. And what do we do today? Not when I reach 30 or 40 years down the road, but today, what can I do to keep the integrity of our mind, body, and soul? So that's a long-winded answer to a couple decades of history.
I love it. So I want to touch on like boundaries and comfort zone. That came to me as part of this. So I see, again, with your, and I love where so many of us have unique backgrounds, and I love that we can come together and learn from each other, right? So I can see how your background as a dancer, as a performer, you basically, your job as well, like what makes something stand out is like riding the comfort zone and riding the boundary line. How do you bring that piece to your clients that you're working with? Because it's a big transition of any of us, whether it's corporate America or not, of this is the way I do things, and now I need to do something different. And we're hitting up against those boundaries. We're hitting up against those comfort zones. So how does your experience help people through that piece?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because, you know, for years, be it you're in the dancer world, you're in the corporate world, you know, we're servicing external goals, right? Our whole life, it's external goals. And all of a sudden, in this, you know, in and around retirement frame, we are now having the opportunity to look at our internal goals. And that is something that can be very joyous, very painful. There's many different emotions that come up through that. And it's figuring out, I was this then, yesterday, I am this today. And this is the process, the transformation, where I say to the client, great, you are here now. Let's envision where you want to go in terms of their healthy retirement. See, this is the key here for me. And then let's set a plan, just like we do in business. We've got a white paper, we can set that plan, and then let's go actualize it. Let's go get that. And so I run this transformation very much like a business, right? You're birthing something new. So that was for me, figuring out, who the heck am I? You know, who am I today? I don't know. Let's figure this out. So it's all about beliefs and values. A lot of that is tied to the corporate world, or we were born with it. And frankly, we're operating, I don't know if I really ever in 40 years of operating look back to my beliefs that, you know, is that, you know, no time for that, right? So now is the time for really deep transformational work to be able to execute on that. And then you talk about boundaries, fantastic. So this is time for that white paper. What is important to the client right now? what is not. And this is such a personal journey for someone, right? So Natalie, when I add 50 more years on your life, you're going to tell me what is this for you, right? And we may have some similarities of what I experienced and what you experience, but they're very unique. We are unique because we have all these different components. So yeah, laying out that plan, being very strong in terms of mindset, right? This personal growth that I'm so passionate about, and then let's go get it. Let's make it happen. So it's very action based. It has to be, otherwise people are going to just stay. And there are people out there who don't want to do the internal work, right? But then the results don't happen. They still live where they were, right? So I encourage people, there is hope, right? There is hope, and it's possible just to move into this very purposeful and healthy retirement that they have worked so hard and desire. And it comes in many forms, right? They could go run another company. They could go into philanthropy. They could go onto boards. They could travel the world, whatever it is. They could be a painter, go into academia and research or write. The list is endless of what people can do. And that's what's so extraordinary. Think about this. Humans can do anything. So this is the beauty of this time.
Oh, and I love that. And I love, whether someone's turning 50 or 65, I'm like, you got another 40 years here. Like,
yeah.
I guess
it's the longevity piece, right? Exactly.
Passion projects, family, again, whatever those goals are. So what are some typical visions that you would say a lot of people have when we bring up the word retirement? What are the things that go through the head? What are the things that kind of are typical? And what are the things that you're really leading with to try to change that conversation?
Right. So let me go back to what my mission statement is, which is I'm here to disrupt the way you think about retirement. I'm a disruptor. I was a disruptor in ballet. I was in modern. I was a disruptor in company. They didn't like what I was saying, but at the end of the day, they accepted it. So I'm doing the same thing here, right? So I feel a lot of what the paradigm of what we think about, or I thought about personally, I thought, well, I'll just model myself after my dad because he was so amazing, and I'll just do what he did. Well, that's fabulous if I had lived 50 years ago, but the point is I'm living in 2022, right? So that's one, disrupt, right? And so typical, there is no typical, right? So everybody is on their own path, and that's so great. But I can tell you that when people initially sense that word retirement, and there are global studies, and I'm a statistics girl, so there are global studies out there, and people just kind of pull back from that word because it's the fear of the unknown. They don't know. They haven't had time to think about it, or they're so busy, or they're going here doing this, So there's a stigma to the word retirement, and it's a cultural thing. Some cultures embrace the more senior elder thinkers of their country. And here in America, we're kind of like the throwaway society. And I'm here to say we're not a throwaway society. We've got tremendous wisdom, tremendous intuition, tremendous experience operating in many, many different markets. And so, I'm encouraging people to really think about exactly what you say. What are they envisioning? And I take them through mental imaging, and we talk about people planning usually 2 years before they know they want to exit a company into post. And there's many different stages in post. So we can get into that as well. But I ask them to envision, what are you envisioning 1 to 5 years out? Who are you with? What are you doing? What's the environment? Why are you there? All these questions. What are you sensing and feeling? all of these things. And then to look at, to your point, 30, 40 years, and then what? And then what, right? So for them to see a very long arc, not just, most people plan the first year after retirement, and then that's it. And I believe that that's a mistake, because we are living, to your point, many decades past the exact point of departure from a full-time position.
That's an interesting perspective, right? Because like yes, most people are like, okay, when I retire, I'm going to go on this trip, I'm going to this trip, right. And then it's like, and then what?
Exactly. And then what? Exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned that typically people will kind of start thinking about this about 2 years out, right? What changes? Well, what changes that someone finally has that aha moment of like, oh, I need to start thinking about this next phase, versus maybe what are some conversations we should have earlier? Because when we think about financial retirement, like as soon as we get out of university and start a job, it's like, oh, here, you need to start saving, investing, need to start financially planning for your retirement. Like I'm 43, and these are the first times I'm having these conversations about like planning the health for your retirement.
Right, exactly. So well put. So let's back up a little bit and talk about the industry. So financial planning has driven this process for many years, and rightly so, just like you talk about. So from university, they present a situation, you put away your pennies just for a rainy day, all of this kind of stuff. You get into a company, they have certain programs, you go to another company, you carry that into the new company, or you have your own company, however it works, and whatever your financial advisor suggests, and factoring in inflation and where you are, statistically, and your risk profile, and there's many other factors into this. But what is lacking, and what I noticed when I was in and around retirement, and I've written an educational tool for this, is there's no you planning. Hello, what about me? So, and there's statistics around that too. There was a study, I think TD Ameritrade did a study where they said they interviewed 2 out of 3 employees who had left their employer, said, hey, they didn't help me prepare for retirement. So I'd like to unpack that statistic and say, yes, they did prepare you for retirement, because I'm sure they prepared your financial package, but they didn't help you with you. And that's a sort of a very big misnomer, because there's no education around that we are not educated to prepare for us. So I'm very passionate about having people start this conversation earlier. But the reality is, life is life. And most of the time, people don't start this conversation until they have been retired or forced out. This is a very unfortunate thing, but happens sometimes. It's very upsetting. People feel in free fall because people wanted to have a choice and be in control. But there are some times where maybe the company got acquired and there's duplication of role, or maybe the product failed, or maybe the investor said, we've lost appetite at the moment, right? So, and whether you're the CEO or the receptionist, it doesn't matter. It can happen to everyone. And in America, in the Americas, USA, we still see this trend in corporations and even smaller companies whereby they excise aging employees. And so people think, oh man, I've been with a company 20 years, 30 years, something like that. And all of a sudden they're not. And so they take it so personally. And I always say, be prepared for the unexpected, be prepared. And people always think, oh, it's never going to happen to me. So I just say, just create that awareness. Just create that awareness.
Yes,
yeah.
That's been even in when I was working corporate pharmacy.
Yeah,
it was very common. Like even like 15 years, right? It's just like, the landscape was very different when I graduated and got hired, right? So it's like I was seeing peers or people not that much older basically being let go because it was a way cheaper to pay them out and bring in a new grad that they could pay at a fraction of the price with a much different compensation package. So It can happen at any time. So
Right.
what are some of the biggest challenges that people face in retirement that we should be thinking about now?
So in terms of challenges, I would say there's a couple things. One, I think you really need to get your health in order. And I say that with an understanding that obviously you would work with your physician or your healthcare provider, certainly. But there's so many things that we can do right now, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. How can we upgrade? And when I talk about health, again, I want to offer to the audience, I want them to think about, the mind, the body, and the soul. So the whole entity. What is it that we can do? The second thing I think that's hugely important is to understand the cost of healthcare. People underestimate the cost of healthcare when they're doing their budgeting. And so, and those two go very closely together. Quality of health, we've got 37 trillion cells, and we're now down to the molecular level of what we can do and how we can fix things before disease or inflammation occurs. So, let's get on this, right? Let's get on this to be healthy and to be able to play full out, right? And my thing has always been, I want to live at peak performance. And I think that a lot of high achievers, we always talk about that. And so my friends say, oh, okay, or my clients, that's 100%. Yeah, I'm at probably 80. And I said, no, I'm at 150. That's where I'm at all day, every day. So that's the elevation of that sort of elite mindset that I really want people to capture. And then I think one of the other things that we've talked about is just the rapid fire of change. Change is a constant and it's a driver, and to build resilience with this, not to turn your back and sort of go like, oh, well, pass over me, but it really needs to come through you, that you take action on this and that you recognize change. It's unsettling. You've done something, the internet services providers don't work. They've merged. They're now called this, not that. This plan we have to review because the pricing is escalated, but I've had it for 25 years. Well, guess what? So there's always something, right? There's always something. So I think it's health. I think it's the healthcare costs and all the ancillaries like the supplemental, the term life insurance, the long-term care insurance. I mean, these policies really add up when you are not fully grandfathered in from corporate. Sometimes they don't pay off the reserve when you leave the companies. So those are very costly. So it really needs an analysis. You really need to find the right team around you that can provide the right analysis for you, unless you're really gifted at the interpretation of that. And then change is a constant.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, and I could see using you as like a dancer as an analogy, where if you're 60 and you're retiring, what you're planning for the healthcare landscape right now, like you're naive to think that's not going to be radically different when you're 90. Right? Mm-hmm. Cost, what's available to us, what's the standard mode of operation. It's going to change, I would say probably 8 times over within that period. So do you want to be firm and rigid and inflexible, or do you want to have balance and be able to move with the flow? Mm-hmm. And to have the right mindset to adapt and shift with this and be resourceful in terms of, where do I get help? Where do I learn how to do this and navigate this piece? Because as a background as a pharmacist, the drug costs, I've seen it sideline so many people. And I have so many stories of people going, because, there's like, a couple of corporations nearby that are like major employers in the area. And people when the company closed and then it was acquired by a new company, a lot of people took their early retirement package. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what happened, no one told them, or they didn't read the fine print in their policy. They didn't realize they had a lifetime drug expenditure max. And so what was happening is I was getting these people at the pharmacy who were 60, we filled their prescription and it would say maximum exceeded.
Oh,
And now they're 60, and in Ontario, the government plan doesn't kick into 65. And the reason they've hit their max is that usually they're on insulin and they're on some expensive medications. And now they're looking at 5 years where they thought their coverage was good. Like they had one of the best plans around. They maxed it out. And now there's, there was some very hard, when I would see that come up, it was so hard because they didn't know the actual true cost of things like drugs and healthcare because someone else was paying for it.
right. Right. So that's such a great story for your audience and for maybe anybody listening on this replay to really dig for the information, try to be as informed as possible, talk to people, talk to your colleagues, talk to the outside world, have a specialist review all the quote legalese so that you really understand what it is, particularly in the exit packages. And I talk about this from, my retained search days of let's really review this. And oftentimes it's a labor attorney or some specialist who this is what they do in life. This is all they do in life. So they can tell you the competitor is doing this one's doing that yours looks like this. Here's negotiation pieces. And it's possible. I mean, I don't know the case, with your situation, with your pharmacy, but that's a negotiation, right? That you can say, yes, okay, but, right. So try to ferret out as much information as possible. Yeah, I offer that.
And so for the people you find that really transition well into retirement, what are the support pieces and how do they involve the other people in their lives as part of that vision?
Communication. So I think communication is one of the most underutilized vehicles that we have. And again, I go back to this silent wall of I'm retiring, particularly for men, but also for women. Again, it's this thinking of I'm running into a dead wall. I'll just golf all day long or whatever, but it's so totally unfulfilling after a couple of years. And really, people want to support people. That's a natural human instinct. But if you do not communicate, so let's say you're in my family, Natalie, I'll happily adopt you and you're in my family. And I say, Natalie, I'm retiring and I'm a little confused and I really need to hire a consultant. And I would like to keep communicating with you. Maybe my needs will change. Maybe my thoughts will change. Maybe my ideas will change, or maybe I'll stay the same. But to have that open dialogue and then to ask, Natalie, will you support me? Let's meet up. I know you're so busy, you work so hard, maybe once a month. And now let me give you an update as to where I am. So any formula will work, whatever works in your family, but I think it's very important to have that communication. And then I think it's let's go back to the phases, right, in retirement. What that I believe in is first either you have the free fall situation where you've been terminated early or you're out, right? So I always say, and people say it's the vacation period, but what I call it is the landing period. You have to find bottom. And you have to find your legs. As an athlete, I'm always like, are the legs there? Where's the legs? So talk about that, right? And then there's the questioning period. So we always talk about, like, who am I? What am I doing? I had questions like, is this all there is to life? Work. I don't even have a life. So where's my life? You know what I mean? So it's all these type of questions. And then finding your curiosity and your exploration. That's the third piece. And going down wrong paths and saying, oh, I thought I would love doing that, but not so loving that. Great. That's fabulous. And people look at it from a very negative point of view. But I say, power to you. You found out, you thought you loved it, and it wasn't all that for you. Start again. So this is a period where you try things, you explore things, you build bigger relationships, you build communities, you talk to different people, you learn, you absorb, you sort it out, you just try to figure out in what manner, and I think this really comes from your heart. It's a really heart and brain centered. Where do you feel that you could be the most value to something bigger than you? So I always say you could have impact in your home. You could care for some elderly people or your grandchildren or help a neighbor. It doesn't have to be family related, or do some volunteer work. You could have actual community-based services, or you could be a big impactor, global expanses. If you're a big executive, oftentimes they're called to sit on boards and whatever. So they're all of value. They're all of value to find that fulfillment and a passion, because you want to get up every day loving the fact that you're seeing sun, and then you've got an awesome schedule, right, to go execute on. So I think it needs to be, and I think this word is so overused, this purposeful. But I like to think of it more as very intentional, very thoughtful, and very heart-based, that you are in service of, because you have had and are continuing to add to all the experiences in your life.
And you have permission. You have permission to map that all out and do it.
Exactly.
And when you were saying this, it reminds me of a story of one of my clients, and I often will have my clients do a perfect day exercise, right? And I remember I had my client do this, followed up with her, and a week later, she's like, I just had my perfect day on a Tuesday. And a big her perfect day was her grandchildren, right? So when we talk about the communication piece, is she adores her grandchildren, loves taking care of her grandchildren. So like that can seem like and often overlooked, like communicate that with your child of, I would like to do this with the grandchildren on a regular basis, right? And if Tuesday's a perfect day, I love that. But if you didn't map it out, then you're just kind of blowing in the wind sometimes.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
So where can people go ahead?
No, I was just going to say, I love this idea, and take advantage of accidents. This was an accident that it came on a Tuesday, but it became the most beautiful thing. So, live in that moment Tuesday with the grandchildren. It's just, capture those. I think the small things are often the biggest things, right? So capture that. I love that story. Congratulations to you and the client. That's fabulous. Yeah.
So where can people get started with thinking about retirement? How do we start as a launch, as you said, as a landing pad? I like that. Where's their pathway to that landing pad, Nancy?
Okay. So may I share my website, and I'll kind of tell you a little bit about a discovery call. How is that? Okay. Yeah. So my website is envisionhealthyretirement.com. And I'll say that one more time. It's envisionhealthyretirement.com. And on that website, I talk about a couple of things. In particular, for your audience, there is a digital detox download, because we're all attached to too many technologies that serve us so well, but sometimes we have to step away. So that's free on the website. Please enjoy that. And also, I offer a complimentary discovery call for those who are serious about thinking about and starting this 12-week transformational proprietary science-based journey that I've prepared.
Amazing. Digital detox, because we're so connected to our identity when we're working, right? Whether it's identity as a mother or this job, a ballerina, an athlete, we're so connected to it. And I shared this before we went live, where I forced myself to take like a day off, and it was hard. It was hard to not check my email, to not open my computer. It was so hard. So I think I need to be looking into that digital detox. This is an extension of ourselves. I want to ask you one more question, Nancy, before we wrap up for today. Yeah. What is one piece of advice you would have given your younger self?
Well, I think I would say because I never gave myself any advice as a younger person because I didn't know enough. So I would probably say, hang in there, go through the windstorms. It's always better on the other side, to keep going, that there are beautiful moments in life, and to, capture every moment, be as present as possible, and really lead with your conscious mind. I think the mind is so powerful. And honor yourself. I think that that is a huge thing. Really, that you're running your own enterprise, your own company, and truly value your health. You only have one health, and so that it will stay with you and serve you in integrity. So value yourself, honor yourself, and most important, have fun.
I love that. That's a mantra we should be repeating every day. I love that. Great piece of advice for your younger self and for all of us as well. So I want to thank you, Nancy, for sharing how you're disrupting retirement in a very positive way. Like, disruption is fun, right? Because I can tell you're having fun. Disruption is fun. So I love that. We need to think about our futures different, think about our health differently, think about everything about that. And it can start with a very powerful conversation. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into this great conversation. And thank you, Nancy, for all the beautiful work you're doing into this world. And I encourage everyone to check out Nancy's digital detox over at envisionhealthyretirement.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Natalie. Have a great day, everyone.